No, I just was getting the camera. I mean the microphone. That's all.
I gotta turn it on.
So good morning. We're gonna go ahead and get started this morning. I do have a special treat for you today. Life application is a little different today. Our own purpose coaching session will be a little different flow, and for that reason is because this is like we're finishing. Okay, I think you guys can hear me. Okay, I just heard some people talking. Okay, so we always start off with the vision and the purpose of the group coaching and the on purpose coaching sessions with the members. So for every faith consulate member to know their purpose and vision for their life, to receive personalized life plan to help plan their life and accountability so that the believer can execute what God has given them. So again, this is what the mission is for this coaching program for Faith Consulate. Faith Consulate's vision statement is to reclaim the earth and all of its resources for the kingdom of God. And so it's so cool to see Faith Consulate's vision statement there, because when you look at the members of our church, is right in alignment with it. So Lady Joy, impacting people who impact the world. Hillary, helping people to have empathy for themselves and others. Brother Mark, using God's word and my testimony to change families' perspectives and their lives. Vanessa, bringing order, structure, and peace to youth. Rhonda, providing resources to impoverished communities through empowerment for them to move to the next level in life. Paula, helping battered women to have a safe haven to be their best self. Lakeisha, providing opportunities for at-risk youth through education, self-awareness, and exposure to unlimited opportunities. Brother Vincent, to aggressively eradicate poverty and change the born-again believer societal status. Jelana, help Christians to know who they are, whom they belong to, and help them walk in it. Rithellus, to aid and develop a child's relationship with God to assist them in what their purpose is in life. Nyla, creating a positive environment in stressful situations by developing order and structure in one's life. Shamika, providing assistance and opportunities for youth to be successful in the world. Brother Lamar, helping businesses and churches to have visibility. Tori, creating an environment that helps others to thrive. Michelle, provides solutions and direction to a discouraged, disgruntled, hurt, and lost community. Kayla, helping traumatized people who are lost, confused, and see no way out by providing them with community and love. Okay. So that was, if you did not see yours up there, get with me. You can do a one-on-one. Matter of fact, it's time for everybody to schedule their one-on-ones because we are going into the second part of the year. Okay. And especially after this call today, or not call, but after this life application today, it is probably you're going to see the importance that you probably do need to go ahead and schedule that call because it's going to bring a lot more clarity of what we're doing today. Okay. So this is what we've been doing. You know, I actually looked over to that. We started this program 2022 at the very beginning of 2022. So we're like in this a year and a half. And I looked at last year's what those topics were, and it's so funny. It was like really laying out the groundwork, and I can go over that at a later time. And my goal is to put it actually on a digital platform so you can just have access to it, because it is when it comes to purpose and our goals and vision, and when we're working on those different action steps, it has to be reminders. It has to be something in front of us. But for this year, we started off in January with supernatural goal setting, which was talking about spending time with God. This is when we had brought in our pastor, Dr. Bill Winston. He had a teaching regarding in order for a believer to get their goals or to set their goals, they have to spend time with God. I mean, it's kind of really impossible if you don't. Like you be all over the place. So it talks about plan and execute, be disciplined to stay on course. February, we talk about readiness to change. This is where we was talking about, I think I did an assessment with you guys. And this is where just see where you were. You might was speaking, you know, I think Lady Joy talks about sometimes people speak out of both ends, you know, both sides of their, you know, mouth, where it talks about like you might say, yes, I'm ready to implement the plan, but internally you're saying something else. So that was that assessment that we did there. March, we talked about mastering the challenges. What is the issue? What is causing me not to move forward? And how can I grow from there? What do I need to add to my plan to help me grow, even if it seems like I don't have the resources to go to the next level? Okay. Um, and so April is what do you want to become? You know, that's when we was connecting our goals to identity. We was looking at some things, we were looking at your goals and how do you change your goals into the I am statement. I am a counselor, I am a therapist, I am. Those are many different roles, right? But that's part of your identity. So that's what we talked about in April. And I don't even see my thing on here. Okay, never mind. But May, I'm looking trying to figure out why my thing is not on here. But for May, we talked about where's your focus. We assessed where your attention was for January, February, March, and April, and May. And what did you want to focus on for the rest of the year? Okay, including June. And so I did type this up. You know, I did have some technical malfunctions before we got on this call, and I did rebuke the enemy, so you guys can be in agreement with that. But for June, for this particular month, which was stated here, and let me make sure it's on the next slide. Hold on. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. So yeah, for June, it's about the heart. Okay. So it's no point, you guys, is really no point. It's I feel like as your life coach, as Faith Consulate's life coach, there's no point of us moving forward relating to goals if we don't check what's in the heart. Because guess what? We're gonna keep on going around this whole roller coaster if we do not. Look, God knows what's there, but He wants you to come to Him and really it's such a beautiful place because it's really, you know, we talked about like getting your fingers off the handlebars. Like you remember when you was a kid and you was on the monkey bars and you had that tight grip you was holding on so you won't fall. Well, when it comes to walking with God, regarding our purpose and in life, He wants you to let go. He wants you to let go of the grip. And what that means is that, yes, you still are held accountable and you're supposed to do certain things, but He wants to be the head in your life. He wants to be like, He wants to lead in that. Okay. And He wants you to always engage with Him. He wants you to come to Him. You know, it's a scripture that talks about do not be anxious about anything. And then, you know, or it's also talk about
No, it's not that one. I'm sorry. It's cast your cares upon me because I love you. So cast your cares. He wants you to do that part. Okay. So it's not like he's just on the sidelines or he's like right beside us, for us to walk into our and into our destiny and into our purpose. He wants to be the head, right? And he already wrote the manual for you to be the head as well, for you to succeed and for you to walk in victory. So today we're going to talk about heart check. Um, and so the primary thing is Matthew 15:13. There is, just hold on with me, hang in there with me, because you are going to be participating, but I need for you to understand what today is really about. And I really believe we couldn't move forward to talk about the rest of this year's goals if we don't do this part here. Okay. So Matthew 15:13, which I have here in the Amplified Classic, Lady Joy's favorite version. It talks about he, which is Jesus. Jesus answered, every plant which my heavenly Father has not planted will be torn up by the roots. The NIV version says, he replied, every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be pulled up by the roots, which I like this one right here, which is the Passion version. Jesus replied, every plant that my heavenly Father did not plant is destined to be uprooted. Okay. Destined to be uprooted. And so I'm getting ready to walk you guys through this process. And sometimes this is a very uncomfortable process, but it's necessary. I have been on one-on-one calls with you. And at the end of the day, excuse me, at the end of the day, we have to do this part because again, we would be around like walking around in roller coaster, right? Walking around in circles. So I want everybody to take out their journals or their paper, notepad, and we're going to do a self-assessment. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm kind of going to model some things. So I just came off from a personal retreat week before last, and that personal retreat was about separating myself from distractions, separating myself from certain things that was going to, I felt like that was hindering me to move forward in life. And so one of the things that I included on the retreat was definitely a spiritual fast. Also, it include, the journal writing. It also include worship. And hold on, let me let this person in. Okay. It include worship. And so I want to show you, I kind of want to model some of those things. Of course, we can't do everything on this particular call, but I want to model a couple of things. So what I'm getting ready to do next, I'm getting ready to share my sound, and I'm getting ready to put on some really nice Christian soaking music. Okay. It's soaking worship. I'm pretty sure brother Marcus and sister Shamika know what I'm referencing to if everybody doesn't, but it's really taking you to that place of just calmness, taking you to that place of just really being ushering, really taking you to the throne of God and really taking you to those heavenly places. And it's really kind of setting your mind, getting your mind right. And so what I want you to do while you're doing this, I want you to ask these questions in this time. So I'm not going to mention these questions. Everybody should be able to see these questions now, but I'm going to play this music and I'm going to give you probably about 5 to 8 minutes. And I want you to really start talking to the Father about these particular questions here and start writing these down. Okay. So just give me 1 second. There we go. I do understand that we're not able to. You definitely want to spend more than 5. We did look at more than 8 minutes with that, but I want to kind of sit this here in front of you, and I'm gonna let you close out whatever thoughts that was going on or whatever was coming to your mind at this moment. So I'll let you close out and finish a little bit. Okay, so basically, what's on this assessment, the questions, and if you everybody in here, I think majority everybody know who I am, right? Meaning that I'm a very positive, optimistic, half when I see a half glass, I see a half glass full. I'm that person that I normally try to look at things always at the positive side of things, and never look at, even when I do dream interpretation, I know my fallacy sometimes can be always looking at the positive side of it and not necessarily what could be a warning or a detrimental side of things. And so which that can be a blind spot because of that. And I want to bring that up because normally, a lot of people don't like to do this part here because it is uncomfortable. And but I, like I said before, in order to move forward, because we could be in the motion of acting like we're working on our goals, and we're putting motion to it, we walk in it, it seems like we're doing some action steps towards it, but it's not. It can be sometimes, it might not be your best, or it might not be at the level that God wants you to do it at. And there's some things that could be holding us back, and so every once in a while, I think it's very important to do a heart check. I can tell when my flesh has become higher than my spirit. And normally you want to do a heart check before that happens, but that's normally a strong indicator, a very, 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 very strong indicator when your flesh is high, meaning that your flesh is stronger than your spirit man, meaning that every time something comes up, you react in your flesh. Every time you look at something, you react in your flesh. You get frustrated. You're easily offended all the time. You're tired, burnt out, like you're just always in your flesh. That's a strong indicator of a heart check. And so these questions that you can ask here during this heart check is: what patterns in my life keep showing up? What is showing up in my world that is not of God? Again, we're talking about the trees. If anxiety shows up, then you need to ask the question: what am I doing when it appears? What are the disappointments that have been showing up? Who has hurt me? This is big because let me tell you something. Unforgiveness is a huge thing, meaning that we have to forgive. Okay. And remember, forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. Okay. It's for you to keep that line of communication open with you and the Heavenly Father. Um, to keep that line of communication open with the Trinity, to keep that line of communication open. And what can block that communication, which is word that, it's a scripture, and I can reference it later, but there's a scripture that talks about some prayers that are not heard because of what's in the heart. Okay. So you need to write down who hurts you. Some people, like, if you're that type of person, which I was at one point, were like, oh, I don't hold unforgiveness because at the end of the day, um, I don't hold grudges. But somebody reminded me, I remember the Holy Spirit also reminded me later on that if someone hurts you, then you more likely you were offended, or offense came. Okay. And so write those things down. What do I say about my purpose? What does my parents say about it? What does my spouse say? What does my friend say? Whoever's in your circle. And the whole point of that is not to put so much value there, but the whole point of that is to see what voices are going on in your head. Some things are happening unconsciously. And so, like, for example, when I was doing this assessment during my personal retreat 2 weeks ago, I was asking those questions like, Lord, okay, what does my father say about business. What does my father say about that? And because my father, because I grew up in the household, he can have that strong voice still. And it was something that it was a negative thing that I didn't realize was there until I did this. And I was like, oh wow. And so, and then now is when you start seeing these trees, the next question is asking God, what are the next step? What are what is the next steps? Like, what do you want? What is the word? What do you have to say about this? It's always a word attached to this. And that's how we do the meditation, reason why we want to meditate on those things. And that's the reason why we use Second Corinthians, and in that chapter, it talks about, casting down all vain, it talks about casting down vain imaginations. And then sometimes in my meditation, I put down those things that are considered vain imaginations, which is, the thoughts of cancer or the thoughts of sickness, those different things. But I'm bringing all this up now. If someone wants to share in this area, you can. I do not want to make anyone or force anyone to share in this area, because this is a intimate intimate part of it. But if you feel compelled to share here of if you did receive any revelation during that time while we was meditating, while we was in a place of looking, thinking of God greatness and thinking of God, when I had that soaking worship music on, when you was at that place and some things was revealed to you and you want to share, I will open that up to you right now at this point. So let me know if anyone in the sanctuary online. Anybody want to share what patterns are keep on showing up in their life? I know this is something not easy to talk about. So if you, again, it is safe space.
Hey,
Okay.
woman of God,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. This is first. I want to say that this is so powerful, and I thank you for the time, the effort, and the energy that you put into this. It is so powerful. I like to I'd like to talk about a couple of them. The last one, what are the voices that I hear? And we have to remember that even while Jesus was in the wilderness tempting, the devil talked to him. So we're going to hear voices from time to time. And I'll talk about, I want to talk about one that I hear and also what I have to do about it. Now, you all know on March 15th I had, surgery, and they moved some stuff from my brain. My left, the two fingers on my left hand, part of my left arm and part of my left side is still kind of, I can't really feel anything there. So what the enemy has been trying to do to me is he's been trying to say, you ought to be thankful for what else has been done, trying to pressure me with I ought to be thankful. But what that is, that's the voice that I hear. But what that is he's lying to me, because Jesus said he would make me every whit whole. See what I'm saying? So one of the voices I hear is that some of this paralysis is never going away. Even when I reach out to grab something, people who are close to me can tell that my arm isn't doing exactly what the right arm is doing. And so I have to get past that. My coworkers pay a lot of attention to me. You know what I'm saying? So I have to get past that. I have the word that I stand on with that is that Jesus promised to make me every whit whole. And then Jesus told the woman who with the issue of blood, he said to her, thy faith has made you whole. So the reality is that I keep, no matter what the enemy is trying to say, I keep saying every whit whole. And this was, and before before we know it, we have accepted something because it came in the form of something noble. You ought to be thankful. Look how far you've come. And even have some of my coworkers say, I've never seen anybody recover this fast, blah, blah, blah. My sister had this and she still can't. And so, but that's not what Jesus promised me. Okay? So I appreciate it and I am thankful. But that Jesus promised to make me every whit whole. So some of the voices come in a noble type of sound, saying you ought to be thankful, and the devil is a liar. I am thankful, but I'm gonna get every single bit of healing I'm supposed to get. So that's the one. I'm gonna let somebody else go now, but that I wanted to start off. But those are some of the voices I hear.
I appreciate that, Pastor, because I know we definitely, and I'm putting this out here as a disclaimer, we're definitely not demon focused, devil focused. However, it is to be aware of how he comes, with those subtle things, because we end up accepting it. And then sometimes we accept it because we don't know what the word of God says as well about the situation. So I'm glad that you show that demonstration of what those voices sounded like. And and you knew that wasn't your father's voice. You knew that it was opposite to what the word said.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
all right. Anyone else? Is this a tough subject for everybody? Everybody's quiet out there. Is it tough?
Hey, woman of God.
Uh-oh. I hear you, Vanessa.
Mine was rather kind of along with Pastor Ben when I was going to the gym, and I guess people want to know what the gym is. Between the sometimes 9 and 12 hours that I was going, I had a lot of time, and so it was either. It's going back to one of Terry Seville's teaching that I was listening to, and she used the acronym KEY, and it says keep educating yourself.
Yes.
Keep educating yourself. So the enemy. You say you got a lot of time in your hands. You got 12 hours here. You got a lot of time in your hand. You can do this. You can do that. No. And he could use that time too if you allow him.
Yeah.
To derail you. So I keep going back to this one thing, and I need to talk to some counselors in my life. They say there's safety in the multitude of counsel, right? So
yes.
I've been advised once, so I'm gonna bring it back to the table.
That's funny. Awesome.
And she also used another acronym, LEAP, and I think it was look, expect, act, and prepare. Prepare. So I'm taking all of that in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So since I've left the gym, and I still have this time, and I'm like reflecting, and it just keep coming up. I said, well, Lord, maybe I've acquired all these skills to do this thing. The devil's like, no, you aren't supposed to be doing it. No, you don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm supposed to do. Because I know, kind of, sort of, he's giving me a glimpse. And I know that wholly I'm not mature enough to, how can I put this? I'm not, what's the word I'm looking for? For the whole picture, I'm not ready to handle everything. So it's still some maturing that I have to do.
I understand.
In the word.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And I kind of sort of know the path that I'm supposed to be on.
Okay.
Like,
okay,
Lord, and I'm kind of a little hesitant, but I know I need to do it. So I'm holding back, but I'm being pushed forward. So it's kind of like the the picture Pastor keep telling about when he got the homeless person and he was pushing them in the tent.
Right. That's good.
So yeah. So
yeah.
and so you have to X out those voices and know that true voice. Because if you're comfortable, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're not gonna be comfortable.
Amen, sister.
You sitting back with your cup of coffee and your feet kicked up on your ottoman. No, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
that's speaking from someone that knows.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's all.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to mention too, when I was going through this process recently, um, I'm the type of person. Okay, first of all, I know that God can heal instantly. Like I know we serve a miraculous God, and He lives inside of us. We have that same spirit, right? So every time something comes in my way, or like if it's something dealing with health or whatever, I'm like, oh, I'm speaking to it. Lord, I believe you. Like I really do believe you. I'm speaking to it. Like I don't, I'm just speaking to it. And I'm realizing, and I think it's a pattern. This is a pattern in my life that I have recognized. I'm realizing that everything is not going to be instant. Of course he could do it instantly, but a lot of times, I'm gonna speak for myself. I'm gonna just put it out there. A lot of times for myself, I don't want to go through no process. Like, who wants to go through the process? Like, who wants to go through the steps? You know what I mean? I just want to get there. Who wants to go through the steps? And so, what I've noticed during that retreat time, I was so free because it was such a heaviness that I brought in, and I was asking Lord to reveal the trees that was in my heart during this process in the middle of that week, because I was like, Lord, I'm not going back home the same. So something gonna have to be released or something gonna have to be said. And he did deliver. I'm gonna put that out there. He did deliver because I received it was the Holy Spirit really ministered to me. And what I saw, it was like a visual. I saw his hand, and he was taking my hand, and he basically was gonna walk me through the process. So that's healing in itself, like walking me through the process. So remember, sometimes it's not instant. You're just going through that process, right? I want to share with a couple people from online here. Hillary said patterns of anxiety takes place in my life, and I realize it occurs when I'm doing things that will push me towards my purpose. So I push through because I know things happen to derail me at times. And so let me tell you, that's the reason why I brought that up, Hillary, when I said sometimes I be expecting healing, because that's some of the things that I've done in the past is I just kept on pushing towards my mark, regarding my goals, and not deal with or spend time with God in a manner of dealing with certain issues that's going on in my heart. You see what I'm saying? Dealing with the patterns. And so it's good to push through, which some religious folks made that into an acronym, pray until something happen, right? But it's good to push through and stay, keep the prize, ahead and keep it in your sight. Also remember during that journey, there's a process that we spend time with God to be healed, and it's a process to get to understand so that the word can take root. See, it's he said what is the trees to be uprooted. He said it's destined to be uprooted. It's destined to be uprooted. So, but what are the trees that he intended to be planted? And those trees that he intended to be planted is the word. And so that's the time, that's the process. The process is identifying, and I'm going to show that next slide, but identifying those trees that he did not plant. Also the process is showing you or showing us the trees that need to be planted. And this is the word. And the way to plant it is to come, listen to these type of studies, come to Bible study, life applications, Sunday school. And it's not to say Sunday school, Sunday service. It's not to say you go into these particular activities, but because of what's happening, because you're building your faith, and faith comes by hearing, right? And hearing the word of God. And so our voice, our prophets are in this house. And so we have the voice, and that's what's going to help us go through the process as well. So I want to bring that up. Shamika said, when circumstances occur and I get in my flesh and I want to call out sick from my responsibility. Okay, I don't know how if you want to get on I don't know what that actually means. Want to call out sick from my responsibility. So while she's coming on or getting clarity on rephrasing that statement.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear me.
Yes, I hear you.
Because you kind of going in and out, so I don't know if I'm gonna go in and out for you. So a couple of things. So going back to just casting down imagination. So things happen, circumstances happen, and life happens, and you believe in God for something, and life happens, circumstances, and then you say, you just like like I have a responsibility, but then what first call life and death is in the power of the tongue. So those things that's not on you, now you're going to speak those things on you just to get out of responsibility. And that's a mind battle. And it's, so, and when I say responsibility, I'm talking about responsibility that God has given as far as, leading worship and things like that. It's like, how you going to call out from that? I didn't give you that. And what you're doing is not based on feeling. It's not based on circumstances, situations, or what you're going through. And it says, they who worship me must worship me in spirit and in truth. So are you doing that just when everything is going good? Or are you doing that because my word says you're supposed to worship me in spirit and in truth? So it's a couple of things. And like going back to like what Pastor Ben was saying, it's like the enemy tries to say, well, it's fine. Are you going to get up there and you're going to worship with this circumstance? Yes, I am, because I'm not worshiping based on my circumstance. So it's again, casting down that imagination, but going back to the pattern, it's like you have to recognize that pattern when it comes. But I'm still
You went out when you said
I'm still trying to get to the place. I'm still trying to get to the place where I'm able to not allow that circumstance to, or that pattern to be a pattern, if that makes sense.
I understand totally, totally get it. And you know what, Shamika, I'm so glad you shared that, because this is a prime example of when there's the flesh is higher than the spirit. Okay. Because girl, let me tell you something. And Patrick knows, when the flesh is higher than the spirit, I don't want to get on Bible study thing. I mean, every time I get on there and every time I get off, I was like, man, that was so good. I'm so glad I went. But getting there, my flesh, because, and let me just show you something. And this is a great lead way. So, and we got 10 minutes here, but I want to say a couple things, and I'm going to talk about something that is a great leeway into to help for us to have our spirit to be the lead and not our flesh. But before I do that, I want to bring up Colossians 3:2. You probably heard me talk about this last Wednesday. And when I came out of the retreat, this is one of the things that was really heavily on me, is set your mind on things above and not on earthly things. And so I just keep saying that. So every time I feel like I'm being moved by my emotions or being moved by my feeling, I keep on saying, because especially the things, because a lot of us are doing things purposefully, like intentionally based off of our calling, or intentionally because of certain things. So it's not, a lot of us, it's not about like we in the wrong place or we ain't supposed to be doing this, type thing or whatever, right? So when those emotions, that resistance come, this was a reminder for me, and still is a reminder. Okay, set my things on things above. Okay, that means that's heaven. Okay, set the things on the things above. Okay, set the things on above. Okay, I'm not part of this earth. Okay, so because not on earthly things. Okay, earthly things is, I don't know, these feelings, emotions, what I'm saying, that kind of thing. So I'm just showing an example of meditating on it like throughout the week. And I put a statement here, which is going to coincide with what I'm about to show you, is you must always, always, always have the expectation of, when meditating on the word, that you will have an encounter with God. Let me tell you, when I started this process last couple weeks ago, and this is not the first time. I've done these several times, but it's just been a while since I've done it. And this could be in our daily private time with God as well. If you come with a heavy expectation, I came with a demand. It looked like because my flesh was so high, it looked like I wasn't gonna get no answers. It looked like I was gonna stay in the same mess. It just looked like, okay. It just looked like the opposite of what God was saying. And I remember I put a demand. I mean, my husband was in agreement with me to go on this retreat for a week. We spent the money. And I'm spending, I'm by myself here, and I'm like, okay, Lord. Tuesday, I checked in Monday. Okay. Tuesday came, I wasn't, hearing clearly. I still felt this this oppression, spirit of oppression. Then Wednesday came, I said, okay, listen, Lord, I have already came to you. And I said, I put a high level of expectation on your word. I'm here. I have put you first. And I'm using his word. Okay. It says that put him back in remembrance of him, right? I'm in covenant with you, remember? And so, and I put a serious expectation. I said, I am not leaving this place. I mean, if I have to check out and still be in the parking lot, I am not leaving this place until I get a breakthrough. And that day, that Wednesday, I did get a breakthrough. And so I want to say you must always have the expectation. I'm telling you, he honors expectations because you put a remembrance of the word. And I'm going to show you a model. Okay. This is not, a religious thing or whatever. It's just a model. But of how to create this could be just your personal daily daytime, right? A lot of people might say that they have kids in the house, it's hard to get away, but let me tell you something. Let me paint a picture for you. I'm currently in a studio, okay? And so there's distractions all the time, and this is how desperate I want to protect my time with God, because I know if I could stay in fellowship with him, then I know that I'll be able to move with ease, move with ease and move with purpose, and continue to stay with the things above, my mindset on that, right? And so I chose the bathroom. That's where I spend my time with God, in the bathroom. Okay, that sounds funny, but that's what it is, right? And that's because that's a spot where I can identify, right? So during this time of your personal retreat, these are some of the things, especially in this heart check season. I'm just talking about during the time when you're doing heart check regarding this part here, identifying the trees that God did not plant. And you use your journal, asking God, writing these questions down, identifying time when you can spend with your Heavenly Father. This is something you need to do. Like today, it might, not might, because this is your homework. So today, you need to start thinking like, okay, well, I can't, like, I know a lot of people say they get up early, but because the whole house is up at this time, you know what? They actually go, everybody goes to their spot around such and such time. So I'm going to do this at night. Or, what, it doesn't matter what your situation is. You find that time, you find whatever that pocket is. If the house is not doable, because there's been times where I've been living with other people and other situations, and I couldn't do that inside the house. So guess what? I went to Walmart parking lot to spend time with God. I'm being really honest with you. This is my life, right? So I went to Walmart parking lot so I can have that one-on-one with him, so I can be able to hear clearly, so I can study his word, so I can speak to him, so he can speak to me. It doesn't matter if you got to walk, if you don't have a car, just walk. I walk the neighborhood and spend time with God. Okay. It doesn't matter. As long as you have your mouthpiece. Okay. So protect your time. Okay. Protect your time. Now, one thing that kind of hindered me sometimes, or I'm gonna say have hindered me, is what time I go to bed, because I like, I've been structuring it to do it in the morning time. And if I go to bed late binge watching shows, oh my gosh, they can throw me off the next day. So protect your time. Identify a place. I talked about. So the soaking instrumental worship music. The reason why I love soaking, Julia True is one of them. Ely Music one day is going to come out with this album with his Christian soaking music, his worship music, right? And I love instrumental worship music, because sometimes this is the time. I'm not talking about you leading the church, right? This is you and your time with God. You want something, I'm going to use recommendation. I recommend something without words at the moment, and use your mouthpiece for the words. And let me tell you something, it's been a night and day difference. And so during your private time, I can just say, oh Lord, you are almighty. He reverence him up. Oh Lord, you are Lord over my life. Oh Lord. And start singing. If you have your a lot of you should have your prayer language. I did 5 minutes. I timed myself. I sung in my tongues for 5 minutes, and I waited to hear from him afterwards. So these are all different strategies or different things, different tools that God has. He wants to always go deeper with us, because and these are things to go deeper with him. The more we go deeper with him, guess what? The more things start breaking off. That's that journey. That's that process. So I wanted to just mention that to you guys. Anybody have any questions? Any questions, any concerns, comments? We do have a couple minutes left. Any questions? I haven't heard from Pastor Joy this morning.
Oh.
Someone's getting ready to say something.
Hey, woman of God, Joy is with her mother this morning, so that's why you haven't heard from her. So she's
I
with
knew
her.
something was up.
Yeah, because she would have some comments. She might be listening somewhere, but she's was with her mother this morning. Thank you.
Okay, gotcha. Was there someone else? I think somebody else was getting ready to come on.
I was gonna say something real quick. I was gonna answer that first question about the patterns.
Okay.
My patterns that keep showing up would be mental assent. And that sometimes, and I guess I don't like to use the phrase gift and a curse, but I guess for lack of better terms, I mean, I guess I will say from one perspective, I'm smart. So when you're smart, you feel like, hey, I can figure this out. I can read and I can apply. I can, learn it and do it. And really the problem with that is we kind of, for me, I would say the pattern when things are going on, there are times where I might just need to step back and allow myself to be in the presence for a new upgrade or a new download. But sometimes because I am smart and I can find stuff and I know how to research and get the answers, I'm like, I don't, and it's not that I don't say I don't need to pray, because I do pray, but there are times where I probably should sit a little bit longer, or I should, just because I know how to do that, is this how I should do this time? So I would say in terms of patterns when things are coming about, because I think one of my, I guess, talents is problem solving. And because things do come quick to me, just because that might be an answer, it may not be the answer. And if I'm not paying attention to that, I might be okay with an answer, but did I really see clear enough to see if that's the answer to that situation? Or the best one that should have been applied to this, even though something may have worked. So I will say a pattern that I have to be very, very mindful of is, just because I can do it in my own human capacity, is that the response that I should have in this moment in time? And so that's something that I've seen before. That is something I have to be very, very intentional and mindful of now. Sometimes it's easier when I just get to a brick wall and I don't know what to do. Then it's like, okay, God, I don't know what to do here. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to research. But if it's something that's common, and if too many common things constantly come about, I can find myself over a period of time just exerting, and not realizing that I had not really sought specific guidance and the clarity of what God may have wanted for that particular thing at that time. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of educated people can be in that place. Because I know, because we're taught to find, and so one thing I challenge you on, and I know we're at the end here, but one thing I challenge you on is because okay, maybe I'll say that off bar. Never mind. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing, Keisha. All right, you guys, we're gonna close out. And as usual, this is your plan. This is the strategy plan right here. Sign up for your one-on-one for third quarter. Submit your plans to God in prayer. Write your goals down. And so meditate on the word that's going to help you go to the next level. Assess at the end of each week. Readjust as necessary. Increase your faith by attending Bible study, life application, and Sunday service. And number 7, conquering your goal. So it is a process, you guys. It is a process. So God, we just thank you, Lord God. We thank you for today's teaching. God, I thank you that it did not go in deaf ears, Lord God. I pray that it went on good ground. And God, I just thank you that you continue to water this seed in our life, Lord God. God, I thank you that you're giving us vision and giving us sight relating to how to go deeper with you, to get the revelation from you. In Jesus' name, we just thank you, Lord God, that we're faithful to your call. Amen. Amen. All right. You guys,